Hello. So I guess I'm a bit of a fraud here because I'm not really an agile evangelist in the same way as these guys are. And so my day job is more techie wise. I kind of like to look at big scale systems and sort them all out. But I do have a bit of a secret in that I really, really love magic. And it's a bit of an obsession of mine. Maybe a problem. My wife would say it is a problem. But I'll take you back. When I was about 8 years old, I live in Birmingham, and me and my parents came down to London. We didn't come very often. And I don't even remember the rest of the day. But what I do remember is at the end of the day, we stumbled upon this shop in London. It's down Charing Cross Road. It's not very far. Or Charing Cross, rather. Davenport's, and they've been doing it for a long time. And it's one of those amazing little magic shops you go in, and there's all sorts of history in there. And we stumbled upon it and went in, and there's an old guy, and he was doing a trick, and it was a Chinese sticks. It's a terrible trick, actually, terrible trick. But I convinced my dad to buy me this trick. And on the train back, I learnt it, and that was where it really all started for me, and got completely obsessed with this. Anyway, what does all that have to do with technology? Well, I think magicians were kind of the earliest technologists. They applied technology way before anyone else was applying technology to trick people, to fool people. And it's like a really, really old profession. This guy, James Randi, you may have seen him before, he calls it the second oldest profession. It's played a massive part for magicians from the very, very, very start. Almost all magic has some technical aspect to it. And because of this, they have secrets, real big secrets. They don't want anyone to know their secrets because that's the end of the game for them. And so IP has also been a big part of their job forever. Now, as I got older, I kind of moved away from tricks. I still do a few tricks, and I'm not going to do any before anyone else. But I did, that's going to be one of the questions, so I'm getting that one out of the way now. So I got really into the history of magic. So my obsession really grew, and I started buying lots of old books, first editions, turn of the century books, and that's where the heyday of all this is then. But this book is a great book. And this guy here, Jim Steinmay, who's actually he crafts, he's an inventor, a magical inventor. He worked with David Copperfield and various people like that. But he's an inventor behind that. But he chronicled the history of magic in this book. It's a really, really great book. And as I was reading through this, and this is what Ben was alluding to earlier, I discovered they were talking a lot about patents in here, and particularly early days, magicians patenting their tricks to protect them. And this is kind of an interesting challenge for them, because by patenting a trick, you're kind of telling everyone how to do the trick. And so how does this work? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk through a few stories, some from here and some that I've researched, about patents first of magic, and then we'll kind of bring it back to technology in a minute. So I'm going to start with this guy called John Henry Pepper, and he did this trick in, I remember the date because I can never remember it, 1862, Christmas Eve. It's called Pepper's Ghost, part of the thing from the title. He was actually a scientist, and he created this amazing illusion. And this is where it was first presented in London at the Royal Polytechnic Institution. And the trick was like this. There's a guy sat on his own, on a table, on the desk, on a table on the stage with a candle. And he's kind of reading a book. And next to him, a skeleton just kind of materializes. And the skeleton has a sword, and they have a sword fight. And the guy chases him off, chases the skeleton to the side of the stage, and it disappears again. Well, this was like at the time, this was a revolutionary trick. And like London went wild for this trick, basically. But how does it done? This is how it was done. So underneath the stage, you had the real ghost, and there's an angled piece of glass. It's not a mirror, it's just a sheet of glass. And the light is what makes the ghost appear and disappear. And it's like looking out the window now, it looks like the glass looks like a mirror. So by changing the light behind this, you can make things appear and disappear. It's a really clever trick, and as I say, he's a scientist, and that's how he figured this all out. Now, am I breaching the magician's code by telling you this? Well, no, he patented it, so you can just go and get this patent and find out. And this was almost his downfall, really. So he wanted to protect this, so no one else would do this in London. It was a sensation in London. But, and so he actually was quite obtuse in his description. He has this, the angle of inclination is ascertained like experimentally, but it wasn't. I mean, you could calculate this exactly. He tried to kind of trick the patent a little bit by not giving the game away completely. This may have been his downfall, I don't know. But how successful was Pepper's patent? Well, not as good as Pepper's Ghost. People just started reproducing this anyway. They could find out from his patent how to do this, and people either created another patent that had a slight variation, they'd put the glass at a different angle, or they'd do slight variations so they could do it anyway. And actually this distilled the trick down to being just very, very, very commonplace. Actually, Pepper then chased people around the US, UK, France, trying to sue people from his patent, and never made any money from doing that. He failed completely. So it wasn't a great story for him, using patents to protect his trick. So the next story I'm going to talk through is a guy called Thomas Tobin, who was an inventor, and he partnered up with a guy called Colonel Stodare, who was a magician. This is the poster for this trick. This was called the Sphinx's Head. I'm going to talk through. Now, there's an interesting thing about this first, before we go any further. You can see this is in Piccadilly. And actually, it's kind of more interesting than that because it's actually this building. So Egyptian Hall used to be part of the front-facing part of Piccadilly was Egyptian Hall. So this trick was first presented in there. And so what happened? So Colonel Stodare there would be a table in the middle of the stage, and he would walk on with a very small travelling case, and he'd put this onto the table. And he'd open the front, and you'd see the head of an Egyptian prince. And he'd shout, "Sphinx, awake!" And this is an actual picture of him here, somewhere, on this building. And the Sphinx's eyes would open, and it would smile. And then it would start talking, and it would recite verse. And at the end of this, he would then close the box up, walk the box off, and take it off stage. So again, how was this done? Well, again, he patented it. This isn't actually the original patent. I couldn't get hold of that. But this is all done with mirrors. This is the first trick that was all done with mirrors. Basically, you'll pop your head up through the hole, and there's two angled mirrors here, so you can't see the person behind the table. Well, again, a revolutionary, sensational trick at the time. This is he patented this actually as two things: Sphinx illusion and Proteus cabinet, which is another trick that uses exactly the same principle. So, did it work again? Well, no. Everyone just copied it again, all over the place. So travelling circuses, all that kind of thing. And actually, I did a 5-minute search on Google, and everyone's doing this trick still today. There's tons and tons of people who do this. So again, patenting this trick really didn't do him any favours whatsoever. Just gave the game away, and everyone just copied him. So the final guy I'd like to just talk through is this guy. He's called Horace Golden, and we're talking a lot later now, in the 40s. But he's remembered for possibly the most famous illusion in magic, which is sawing the lady in half trick. Now the interesting thing about that was he didn't actually invent this trick. He copied it off someone else called P.T. Selbit, who did it about 5 years earlier. But he was an amazing raconteur and publicist of himself. And one of the great things he used to do, he would, and he toured around London too. Outside his theatre, he would have stagehands throwing buckets of blood out into the drains at the end of every performance, and that would guarantee a full house the next night. Now again, he wasn't the inventor of this trick, but he decided to patent it. No one else had, so he patented this trick. Again, here's his patent. You can go and see this. This is the standard sawing a lady in half trick that everyone's seen on TV. The lady gets in the box, it's sawed in half, you see both halves, you push it back together again. Now, Golden was a really successful magician. He earned a lot of money. Didn't really need to chase the patent like the other guys did. But he decided to. And what happened in 1938, R.J. Reynolds' company, advertising Camel cigarettes, had this range of adverts where they basically gave the game away on tricks. So all the big illusions of the day, they showed you how it was done with this slogan: "It's fun to be fooled, it's more fun to know." This kind of annoyed Goldan. This was his trick, his famous trick. Although, within magic circles, it was known how it was done, just not generally. And he decided to sue them. And he lost again, and he lost a lot of money, a serious amount of his money. And he actually never patented another illusion ever again. Yeah. So, how does this all apply to technology? It's all kind of interesting, but how does it apply to that? Well, I'll come back to that in a second. So, there's some interesting things that magicians do to protect their secrets. They don't really hide their secrets, but they just control them. And they use more like social pressure to make sure that people remember who invented the trick and follow the rules. They've stopped patenting, not entirely, some people still patent illusions, but actually it's very rare now. But how do they appoint credit to who invented the trick within the magic circles? Well, this comes from a paper that was written in Harvard on the social culture of magicians. And this is one of the first rules. The first person to publish or prominently perform a trick gets the credit for inventing it. And there's almost an unwritten rule that you won't copy this for a while. So if someone's doing the saw in the lading trick, you just won't copy that for a while, and then you will a bit later on. Or you might do a variation, and that's okay. Because, yeah, people are encouraged to publish improvements of new versions of previously shared work, but derivative works should acknowledge and credit the original. So it's fine to copy the sawing a lady illusion and do a slightly different thing using the same trick behind the whole thing. Now, this isn't news to us as technologists, because this is just what we do source control every day. So the person who creates the repository is the owner. They have first credit on the thing, and everyone forks, they change, they create derivative work, and they put it back in again. So in many ways, magicians have evolved into an open source model, and maybe the first to do that. So the combination of these two things of actually being very free and open within the industry of their secrets, and actually not bothering to patent things, has kind of done them proud. So should we learn something from these things? Well, we may remember the patent wars of 2008 to 2012. This is an infographic that shows who was suing who for patents around that time. And it was a seriously crazy time. And you know, magicians learned quite early on that it's actually just a waste of money chasing patents. You just spend a lot of time, a lot of money, and actually the lawyers are the ones that win. No one else really does. Google spent an estimated $6 billion buying Motorola Mobility and then selling them again and just keeping some patents to protect them when this was all going on. So, I mean, kind of imagine if they didn't spend that on that and they spent it on technology, maybe we would have the hoverboards that we all wanted this year. So, magicians use kind of convention, an open source kind of approach to protecting their IP. They make money by delighting us with the tricks, but not about the trick. It's not about the trick. And I think this totally applies to tech too. I love these guys, Netflix. They're one of my favorite tech companies. And they are incredibly open with their technology, and they share a lot of things out back into the open source community. But it's not the magic of Netflix, isn't that. The magic of Netflix is me and my son watching a film on a Saturday, and it's streaming, and me choosing, and it's not watching that, and I'm watching the next one, and all that. So that's the magic. It's not the technology, it's not the trick, it's the performance. So I think to conclude, really, you'd think in the magic community is kind of secret and hidden, but actually it's a really open, sharing and generous community if you join it. And that could just be the same with technology, right? We're in a little club, and perhaps if we just carry on being more open and generous, it will help. So I found this statement in Magic magazine. The bottom line is that the legal system offers considerable potential for loss with little hope for victory. Now this could apply to our industry, and you could have seen this posted in many places. So I'd just like to finish and leave with this thought, really. If we kind of forget patents and just thrive as a community, we can spend the money and time and energy on just making magical technology instead of fighting with and making the lawyers all the money. So that's the end of my talk.